drag racing, NASCAR, rallies, racing. Awesome cars make awesome power. And you know how we compare them with stats. But what's it really mean? We're about to find out. We're talking about horsepower and torque. The way Tony talks about it, torque is a grunt. And horsepower is screaming! Torque and horsepower are both ways of measuring force. Torque measures twisting force, and horsepower measures work. And work is force over time. So let's start with torque. You probably heard of foot-pound. Pound is a measure of force. If you weigh 180 pounds, that's because your mass, what you're made of, is exerting 180 pounds of force on the earth. A foot-pound is a pound of force amplified by a foot of leverage. This is Jesse's toolbox, and this is a weird bolt in a board. This is a wrench. If I use a foot-long wrench and apply 1 pound of force at that bolt, I'm applying 1 foot-pound of torque on the bolt. If I use this 2-foot bolt buster and apply 1 pound of force at this end, I'm applying 2 foot-pounds of torque. If I apply 2 pounds of force at 1 foot, its force on the bolt is the same as 1 pound of force from 2 feet. 2 foot-pounds or pound-feet. It's the same unit because it's math. The distance from the point of measurement amplifies the force through the lever arm. I wonder where it all goes. Engine torque measures the amount of this force that an engine can produce. Let's get inside there. The pistons drive this crankshaft. You can see that where it attaches turns around the center axis, just like the wrenches turned around the bolt. Each explosion in the cylinder pushes the piston down with force. That force is exerted on the crank pin and transferred to the shaft to get it spinning. Torque is determined by 2 factors: the amount of force on the crank pin, which comes from the piston, and the distance of that force from the center axis, or throw, which varies by crankshaft. Makes sense? If the throw stays the same and we produce more force from the piston, maybe with more displacement, we can increase the torque. If the force from the piston stays the same, we can increase the distance of the pin from the crankshaft center to increase torque. There's millions of combinations and variations that we can tweak to adjust the force exerted on the crankshaft, from the number of cylinders to the shape of the engine, even to the type of fuel we use, which we can get back to in a minute. Horsepower is a measurement of work, and work is force over time. James Watt lived from 1739 to 1819, and he loved doing math. Steam engines were changing everything during the Industrial Revolution, and Watt wanted to give people a way to measure all of the work that was getting done. Watt was watching work ponies, which are not tiny horses. Ponies are their own thing. You can look it up. But he noticed that a pony took about a minute to raise 220 pounds of coal out of a 100-foot well. And being a scientist, he increased that number by 50% because a horse is about 50% bigger than a pony. Whatever, it's a unit. As long as it's consistent, it can be whatever he wanted. He figured that one horse can do 33,000 foot-pounds of work every minute. A horse exerting 1 horsepower can raise 330 pounds of coal 100 feet in a minute, or 33 pounds 1,000 feet in a minute, or 1,000 pounds of coal 33 feet in a minute. That's work! That's horsepower! The amount of force, foot-pounds, torque, produced over time is horsepower. Because torque is how much force an engine produces, horsepower is how quickly it can produce how much force. We can dive into this by looking at how we measure car horsepower on a dynamometer. You can either put the car on a roller that'll measure the force produced at the wheels, or if you attach a shaft to an engine, you can measure the force driving the shaft and its speed. Start your car, you put it in neutral and floor it, well, the engine would run so fast it'd explode. A dynamometer applies a load to the floored engine and measures the speed it moves. You can hook an engine to the dyno, floor it, and use the dynamometer to apply enough of a load to the engine to keep it at, say, 7,000 RPM. You record how much load the engine can handle, and then you apply additional load to knock the engine speed down to 6,500 RPM, and record the load there. Then even more to get it to 6,000, and so on. You can do the same thing starting at 500 RPM, and then work your way up. What the dynamometer is actually measuring is torque. And because of math, to convert torque to horsepower, you just multiply the torque by the RPM and divide it by 5,252. That's horsepower! Why 5,252? Well, I'm glad you asked. You remember the horse from before with the coal? Okay. That horse moved 330 pounds, 100 feet in a minute. So 33,000 foot-pounds of work in 1 minute is 1 horsepower. Now, for my dumb brain, let's use 100 pounds, 330 feet in 1 minute, because that's also 1 horsepower. We need to show 330 feet in 1 minute as revs. So let's think of the wheel. The distance traveled in 1 revolution would be 2 pi r, or 6.28316. 330 feet in revolutions is 52.52. Starting to look familiar? 100 foot-pounds at 52.52 RPM is 1 horsepower. Therefore, 1 foot-pound at 5,252 RPM is also 1 horsepower. So you take the torque, multiply it by the revs, and divide by 5,252, and you've found horsepower! Woo! Woo! Oh, yeah! When you plot horsepower versus the revs per minute for the engine, you get a curve like this one. An engine has peak torque, where it generates the most force. It has peak horsepower, where it produces the most torque most quickly. When you're trying to accelerate quickly, you want to try to keep the engine close to its maximum horsepower point on the curve. That's why you downshift to accelerate. By downshifting, you get closer to the peak horsepower on the curve. You want to launch your car from a stop? You rev the engine to get it right at peak torque. Then you release the clutch to dump maximum power to the tires. Let's take a minute to talk about why diesel makes more torque but not much horsepower. Think about what torque is. Remember the long wrench? Well, diesel has a much higher compression ratio, which means the head of the piston can travel further in the cylinder. That means the distance from the center of the crankshaft can be greater. That means more torque. But because the throw is greater, it's got more distance to travel to get through a revolution. So it can't move as quickly. And because horsepower is work done quickly, diesel engines can do a lot of work, but not as quickly as a gasoline engine when it's cranking at high revs. That's horsepower versus torque. Hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. Thanks to Audible for sponsoring this video. Start a 30-day trial and your first Audible book is free. Learn more at audible.com/ScienceGarage. Audiobooks are a great sidekick for summer activities like hiking or running or biking or cruising with the top down. Listening is a better way to binge content you love while doing the things you love. Audible's got almost any book you want. Right now, I'm listening to Horatio's Drive by Dayton Duncan and Ken Burns. It's about Horatio Nelson, who made the first U.S. cross-country drive in 1903. You can get through tons of books, hands and eyes free, while you do just about anything. Audible lets you switch seamlessly between devices, picking up exactly where you left off. Hop out of the car, start it on your phone. Get into the house, hey Alexa, read my book. Wherever you are, you can get tons of books read while you are doing anything. Audible members get a credit every month, good for any audiobook in the store, regardless of price, and unused credits roll over into the next month. Didn't like your audiobook? Well, you can exchange it, no questions asked. Plus, your books are yours to keep. With Audible, you can go back and re-listen anytime, even if you cancel your membership. Well, I don't know why you'd want to. Start a 30-day trial and download your first audiobook, that's any book you want, for free. Go to audible.com/ScienceGarage or text ScienceGarage to 500-500. You got that? Go to audible.com/ScienceGarage or text ScienceGarage to 500-500. You can do it with audiobooks. The more people subscribe to Donut, the more cool stuff we get to do for you. I love reading your comments. Let me know what you want to see. Please like the show page. If you like horsepower and torque, check out James driving the Dodge Demon. Or check out this wheelhouse on F1. Follow me on Instagram at BidsBardo. Follow Donut at Donut Media. Don't tell my wife that's Jesse's toolbox. She thinks I can fix things.